Welcome to the Manumission podcast, the show dedicated to unshackling ourselves from the status quo. Here's your host, H.H. Morris.
Hey friends, long time no see. Sorry about the delay in getting the episodes out. I've been extremely busy with work, a lot of things going on in my personal life. I also had my birthday. I've been doing a lot of training on the side. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I also do some personal defense and firearms training on the weekends. It's kind of like my side gig, something I've been doing for a while. And by the way, if you're ever interested in training with me, if you're ever in the Phoenix, Arizona area and would like to get involved with that, feel free to reach out. Be more than happy to include you in our group of folks that do, like I said, personal defense, kind of self-defense type stuff, firearms, and concealed carry, a whole bunch of stuff. I am, by the way, a certified firearms instructor. I'm not just some goon out there pretending that he knows what he's doing and stuff. But I've been meaning to talk about culture and kind of giving some analysis of ideologies between the left and the right. But every time that I'm trying to focus in on what the heck I'm going to talk about, then something goes down, something big goes down. And I think that's going to be the case for the next 4 years, because it's just like every day the news is going off on something new with Trump. So I I can't not address the fact that Michael Flynn basically resigned. It's not clear to me whether he was fired or he just resigned, or they asked him to resign. But I guess everybody listening to this has already heard about this, I'm sure. And for those that don't know, just be aware that that was Trump's national security advisor. And basically, I think it's the shortest lived tenure for a national security advisor in history, 24 days, if not not just for a security advisor, but I would guess probably for anybody in a cabinet or, close to the president like that. So, all right. So what can we make of this? What can we glean from this? Because I was thinking about, well, all of you guys will have already heard everything that's out there in the media, and will tell you about, what a disaster this is, especially coming from the left. You are already seeing and hearing everybody telling you about how this basically illustrates just what disaster the Trump administration is, how ill-equipped his team is to deal with certain things, just how close he is with Russia and all these different things. And then those are the never Trumpers, right? That's usually the leftist media, as well as the never Trump Republicans. And then you have the always Trump, blinded by the orange glow folks that will basically explain away everything he says and does. And they are essentially just apologists. So I'm not interested in that. Like I've told you guys, what I want to do is, get some perspective on these things. And I think this is a very good learning opportunity, learning for us, and even a good teaching opportunity, because if we know what sense we can make of this stuff, it's easier for us to be able to reach out to people. And when, this comes up in conversation, that we can open people's eyes to the reality. And the reality here is the existence of the deep state. And you've probably already seen a lot of people either tweeting about this or writing about this. And, so what is the deep state? Well, we all understand that the state exists. We talk about this on the show all the time, and the nature of the state, government, the fact that, we have this idea that we're represented by this government through representatives, that we have a direct say through elections and all this stuff, right? All right, so what's the deep state? Well, consider, and I talked about this before, consider that the vast majority, not even just majority, we're talking about almost all of government positions, virtually all government positions are not elected positions, right? Again, I talked about this in one of my first podcast episodes. The fact is that you only elect a very few number of people into office, and almost everybody else, 99% of the people in the government, are appointed bureaucrats, functionaries, agents, and the like. Okay? think everybody's pretty much aware of that. Okay, so when we think about all these different departments, these different bureaucracies and ministries and whatever you want to call them, and we know that they are led by all these different people, and it's just this huge, inefficient, expensive bureaucracy that are essentially used to bribe people. Because all of these departments, all of these organizations inside of the government are used to bribe people into saying, hey, well, this is here for your benefit. We're going to give you all these goodies. So whether it's the Department of Homeland Security that will keep you safe, or it's Social Security, we're going to make sure that you have money when you're ready to retire and that you don't die penniless or something like that, or the EPA, all these things. Well, yeah, they exist, and we understand that there's people that work in those places, and they might be there for decades, and they'll be there across, a bunch of different administrations and of all parties. Well, mostly, Democrat and Republican, but, even if there was at some point an independent in there or a libertarian or whatnot, a lot of these people have been there for decades. They've been there for a lot of years, and they're very entrenched in the system. And okay, I guess we all also understand that. But is that the deep state? Well, no. The deep state are those types of people, but specifically the ones working in either parts that deal with the military-industrial complex or the intelligence community. And that's the deep state, because those are the people that have a lot of dirt on other people, especially other politicians and other government functionaries. They might be judges, they might be district attorneys, all of those people that also have some power. So when you hear about the deep state, this is a very, very real problem, because these folks can call the shots very easily. They can manipulate the elected leaders. Again, I've said, even if you do elect people, the fact that you think that they actually represent you is ridiculous in and of itself. But then the deep state, the existence of the deep state just exacerbates that problem. Okay? And I want to kind of give you, talk you through how the left and the right have both addressed these issues, and how they've essentially turned a blind eye whenever it was convenient for them to do so, to either not talk about the deep state or to outright support it. Okay, so even if we go back to the Bush administration, and we know that there were some leaks there were a lot of people that spoke out about the crimes and all of the misdeeds that were happening, especially in the prosecution of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. How much the left was cheering these people on, whether they were whistleblowers or whether eventually, when with the rise of WikiLeaks and releasing all these cables between diplomats and other countries and blah, blah, blah. And they were, hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for WikiLeaks and all these people coming out and revealing stuff. And obviously the right was calling these people unpatriotic, and this is treason, and how could you do this to your country? And this is a matter of national defense and blah, 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 right? And then what happened? When Obama came into power, then we saw that Obama didn't do away with a lot of these things. He expanded them, like the drone program and the spying and all that stuff. And yet the left didn't criticize Obama because, well, now it's his team. Sorry, it's he's the one in their team, right? And then the Republicans, because they tended to be pretty much blindly supporters of the police state and the military and all that kind of stuff, they didn't really hear as much as a peep from them, right? So even though he signed the NDAA, the National Detention Authorization Act, he expanded, and continued the NSA spying programs, all that kind of stuff. Again, the left pretty much quiet, and the right also pretty much quiet because, again, this is for national security, and we got to support our people on the front lines, and we got to protect ourselves from these evil, Muslims that are trying to kill everybody and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then, fast forward to the recent past here, and we also had, again, a series of leaks, again from WikiLeaks, and this time the Republicans were all about, yay, Julian Assange, and yay for WikiLeaks, and then now because most of those leaks were against Hillary Clinton, you now have the left turning on WikiLeaks and Assange and saying, oh, that guy is untrustworthy, and this is all a plot, and blah blah blah. So back and forth. You saw it for yourselves. You saw how ridiculous all of this is, this tribalism and this inconsistency, and all about my team versus your team, and then whatever is good for my team, I'm going to support, and then if they ever do anything wrong, I'm going to just pretend it didn't happen or explain it away. Okay, well, let's see how we can explain this if we want to understand what are the consequences of such a system. And I'll start with going back to the Bush administration. Now remember when at first things like the Patriot Act started coming out, and when he created like the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11 and those type of things. And I was, pretty worried. I said, what, this is a huge expansion of power. This is something that can be used more likely going to be used against citizens than it is against other, actual real threats and those type of things. And, when I'd talk about this with my conservative friends, and they'd say, hey, you know what? First of all, I have nothing to hide. If they want to tap my phone, if they want to go through my, text, or they want to track me or whatever, they're going to be wasting their time because I have nothing to hide. And, if that's what they need to get these guys and to get bin Laden and get Al-Qaeda, then so be it. And you know what? As a libertarian, I disagree with that, obviously, because that's not the response of a free man. That is the response of a subject. That is, hey, master, yeah, sure, come on in, rifle through all my stuff, check everything that I've done, nothing wrong, feel free. Well, guess what? You're a subject, you're a slave. You're not a free man if that's your response. Because the way a free man would respond is, screw you, I've done nothing wrong, leave me alone. Okay? Now, if you can provide some evidence that I've actually done something to hurt somebody else, then so be it. But if you have nothing on me, then F off, right? Okay, we might say, oh, you're just being, a typical libertarian, whatever, and you're not being practical. But I'm sorry, but conservatives, almost as much as libertarians, talk about liberty and freedom and all these type of things. And it's important to call them out when they say things like that. Hey, that's just, what we might have to do and sacrifice in order to stay safe and all those kind of things. Well, then I'm sorry, you don't believe in liberty. You don't believe in freedom, okay? Because you're willing to give it away, all right? Because one of the biggest things most absurd arguments that I've heard, especially when they talk about the spying and all this stuff, and they spy on everybody. This was something that even the CIA and the NSA lied in front of Congress when they said, oh no, we don't track everybody's emails, and we don't know. Well, guess what? They actually showed that yes, every single thing is basically, that doesn't mean that someone actually reads them, but they're all basically archived, right? Everything is basically within their reach. They can read pretty much almost any email, pretty much every text message or whatever they can do. They would just have to go in and find it, right? But it's archived essentially. And this is what they call metadata and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, this is absolutely absurd, right? Because you'd think, well, if you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, the last thing you want to do is throw more hay in that stack, right? The more hay you throw in that stack, the harder it's going to be to find that needle. So why would you even focus on people where there's nothing there? All right. So I always found that completely absurd. I think it was completely hypocritical of people on the right to act that way. And then another argument I would hear very often, and not just from people that I know, but also out there in the media and people who are either pundits or high profile people on the right, and they'd say, Well, you know what? That's just basic. You're just being narcissistic if you're worrying about it. Like, why would the government want to know anything about you? Why would they listen to your phone calls? And, that's just being basically, again, being narcissistic and irrational. And here's my response to that. And this is what has to do with what happened with Flint and what I think is the real threat. Okay. I don't think that the government cares what I say. All right. I don't really think that they're out to get me and that I pose any threat to them. All right. As long as I, basically just keep quiet and pay my taxes, they're going to be, they're fine. All right. They're not going to spend any additional resources on me if they don't need to. Right. But again, and that's why it's so stupid that then they would include all my stuff in their database, let's say, for at some point if they can reach it. But here's the thing. That's precisely the problem. Well, then forget about me. If they can do it with everybody, that means that at any time, at any point, if they ever want to get something on anybody, they can. And that's the point. So I would tell those, high-profile people, those, Republicans or, the Rush Limbaughs of the world and the Sean Hannitys and the O'Reillys and the Glenn Becks and all these people who are actually high-profile people, high-profile personalities on the right that turn a blind eye to stuff like that. Guess what? At some point, if they want to get you, they're probably not going to come after me, but they will come after you, right? Because suddenly you might get a weird phone call or a strange visit from someone and say, oh, hey, check out these pictures or check out these emails of you and your mistress, or, oh, this is the kind of porn you're into, huh? Guess what? If you don't do this or stay away from criticizing this, I think your wife is probably going to be very interested to see, what we have on you or whatever. All right. That's very easy for them to do. And that's exactly what the deep state is. All right. So when you have the actual apparatus that has this capability, then forget about you and me for a minute. The people that actually do have power and the people that you actually voted for and you wanted in power, they're at the mercy of these people. Okay? So whether it's a Supreme Court justice, whether it's the National Security Advisor, whoever it is, these people that have been entrenched in that system, these are the intelligence agency folks, these are the agents, these are the analysts, these are all of these people that have been there for ages, for decades, working on this stuff that have dirt on everybody. Okay, so forget about you and me for a second. These are the people that can essentially, at any point that they want to oust someone or they want to nudge someone ever so slightly in a different direction, because they're the ones that actually profit from having hobgoblins all over the world that they have to fight against. Remember, if there's nothing to fight, those people are out of a job. If there are no boogeymen coming after the United States, trying to get us, trying to kill us all, they're out of a cushy gig. A very well-paying, stable job that they've been there forever, and they plan to retire at 55 with a huge pension and great benefits for the rest of their lives, and yada yada yada. Okay, and ironically enough, believe it or not, most of these people are Democrats. And by the way, General Flynn was a lifelong registered Democrat, just so you know. So again, it just goes to show that this is all an absolute farce. All right. So what probably happened here is, these things were leaked because they wanted to do away with General Flynn because he was too cozy with Russia, and especially the Democrats and many of the neocons essentially want to not have a good relationship with Russia. They want to stir up trouble. The McCains of the world, all these people. Because why? I don't know. This is what is insane to me. Remember, the left during the Cold War, they were absolute apologists for the Soviet Union. Like, hey, you can't be talking so negatively about the Soviet Union. You're just poking the bear and you're just saber rattling. We can't do that. How much did they go after Reagan during those years? And well, not even just Reagan, just any administration that would go after the Soviet Union. And the Democrats, the left, would defend the Soviet Union, even though all of their atrocities had been, by that point, very well documented. We knew that that was a failing state, that it was essentially a very oppressive and repressive state, and yet they would come to their defense. But now that you have kind of a right-wingish person in there with Putin, now you would think that now Russia today, having the Soviet Union having been broken up into many, many pieces, and Russia being much smaller population-wise at least than it was before, and having a lot less power than it had before, suddenly they're an existential threat when they were the Soviet Union. And there was an absolute arms race, and everything was about, they had many more nukes and all that stuff. Okay, so it makes absolutely no sense. All right, the other thing was, and again, I'm not defending General Flynn here because I wasn't a fan. I mean, I like the fact that he wasn't trying to start a war with Russia. I mean, to me, it would be ridiculous. There's absolutely nothing to win for any of us in something like that, with two nuclear powers going to war over what? Really, over what? But again, who are the people that benefit from that? Who is to gain? Follow the money. It's the deep state folks. It's the CIA. It's the DIA. It's NSA. It's all of the people that require all of this chaos for them to even be able to justify their existence, right? So, and again, the other reason why I wasn't a big fan of General Flynn was because he actually was the equivalent of what I didn't want him to do with Russia. He was willing to do with Iran. And that's, again, another boogeyman that they've inflated and exaggerated a million times over about their nuclear capacity, about their intentions, whatever. Now, are the people in control of Iran a-holes? Absolutely. Absolutely. They're crazy religious zealots, and I'm not going to defend them either. But does that mean I want to go get people killed over there, end up killing innocent people, sending young American kids to go shoot people and get shot at and get blown up? No, of course not. All right, so don't take this as an apology for Trump or Flynn. I just want to highlight the fact that the existence of the deep state is very concerning. It's very real, and it's not about conspiracy theories. All right, it's very clear. And that's why I think this is a good opportunity for us. When people have brought this type of stuff up in the past, they say, "Oh, you're exaggerating. Oh, you're just being a conspiracy theorist, whatever." Well, we just witnessed exactly what happens when they get dirt on these people that are in power. It's the deep state. They leak it. They come out with it, or they start stirring things up. They can oust people. They can nudge them. They can bribe them. A lot of people were actually, back in and this is a conspiracy theory, whatever, but, I remember when Obamacare was essentially approved by the Supreme Court, that everybody was completely amazed that John Roberts actually went with it. And he said, "Oh, well, it's a tax. The fact that you're making people, buy a product is, I guess it's fine, because, it's just a tax. You don't have to buy it. But if you don't buy it, you'll have to pay the tax. But again, that's fine." And as a jurist who is very familiar with the Constitution, everybody was just beside themselves. How did this guy? And so a lot of people were positing that, hey, you know what? Someone had to have gotten to him. Someone had to have said, hey, you better vote this way, or guess what? We have, this on you and whatever. And again, there's no proof of that. But what I'm saying is, be aware that stuff is possible. That stuff is possible because of the deep state, right? You saw all these dossiers that were coming out about Trump with prostitutes in Russia and, golden showers and all this crap. And hell, for all they're true. And the only reason why those would exist and why that's even possible to be able to blackmail the president of the United States is because of the deep state. When we talk about this with people, so whether they be on the left and the right, we have to make it very clear that this does not bode well for anybody, because your guy might not be in power today, but whatever power you gave to your guy last time is now being used against you today. Because remember, you said nothing about the NDAA when Obama signed it, but now that Trump is in power, guess who has the power to indefinitely detain you? Donald Trump. And that's why it's important that we all be consistent with this stuff, that we talk about reason and logic and arguments and principles, because otherwise we're all just flying blind, and all we're doing is just flying the flag of our team. And guess what? There will come a time when your team is not in power. And then what? Now the power that you gave your team when they were in power, now it's going to be used against you. All right? So a lot of lessons to be learned from this event. I think as things unfold, we're going to learn a lot more than that. But again, be wary of the deep state. In many ways, they are the people who really are in control of things. Now, the fact is that this is kind of a power that's spread out among and throughout many organizations and many people. So it's almost a little bit more like an oligarchy type thing. So it's not like there's this big, one person at the head of the table calling the shots, and that everybody gets together and wakes up in the morning and starts colluding about what to do. But it's just people who have ulterior motives, and they all have the same ulterior motives, who act in a certain way to get the outcome that they need. All right, it doesn't need to be this crazy conspiracy theory, Bilderberger type, lizard people thing like that. It's just that is the way people act. Okay, these people are going to protect the brotherhood, right? They're going to protect the institution that pays their bills. Okay, this is no different than the issues that have happened with the Catholic Church, where some priests turn a blind eye to some other priests, even if it's a small minority of priests, fondling little kids. Why? Because it's the institution that's more important, right? So that is the mark of very entrenched, large bureaucratic institutions that have basically made it very easy to protect its members, that have made it so that the people on top, especially the managers, especially not talking about directly with the front lines folks, but the people in the top and the middle, they have very cushy gigs, very comfortable gigs, very high paying gigs with a lot of privileges attached to them, a lot of power, and they will do anything to protect it. That's all I have for you guys today. Still a very busy week for me. Just wanted to check in and talk about this. But stay tuned for this coming weekend when I'll have hopefully a little bit more of a informational kind of libertarian theory topic. And but who knows? Oh, Trump is president, so anything can happen, right? All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. If you want to know how you can help me keep the show going, or if you have a question, comment, or recommendation, you can contact me directly or through social media. Find out how to do all that by visiting manumission.com.